Meghan Markle said the quiet part out loud. She said that even her blood type is overachieving. This is not a parody. She's basically describing her own DNA as elite. It tells us everything we need to know about how narcissists build identity myths from the inside out. This video isn't about Jam, it isn't about her podcast. It's about curated vulnerability, self mythologizing, and what happens when someone turns their title, their essence into a product. This is going to be an educational breakdown rooted in psychology and not gossip. If you've ever experienced this kind of identity manipulation firsthand, this will help you see it for what it is. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. Okay, everyone, let's get into it. I'm going to be referencing this article that was in the Telegraph, and I'm only going to read you a couple parts of it. There are four really big things I want to talk about. This article is titled, Meghan, I'm an overachiever because my blood is type A. Duchess describes how Oprah Winfrey inspired her to find her essence when setting up her lifestyle brand. The article begins, the Duchess of Sussex joked that she is an overachiever because her blood is type A positive. She interviewed her close friend, in quotation marks, Jamie Kern Lima, just hours after she appeared on the makeup entrepreneur's own podcast, during which it emerged she was still using her HRH title in a personal capacity. And I respectfully disagree that it was a personal capacity, but we will get into that in a minute. The article continues, an image of the basket of ice cream and homemade strawberry sauce was sent by the Duchess to Miss Kern Lima, showed a monogram card adorned with the printed message with compliments of HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. Okay, so who sends a gift basket like that to a close friend or even someone, I mean, they're neighbors, right? So who does that to a neighbor, or even if it's not someone that's close, if it's someone that you're trying to get close to, you would send it with your first name because you're trying to build intimacy, you're trying to build warmth. But when it's signed from Meghan, HRH, Duchess of Sussex, actually, it didn't even say from Meghan, it said HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. It's basically creating such a level of distance between herself and whoever's receiving the gift. This is not someone who's trying to build a friendship. It's a status broadcast. Now, let's remember, Meghan and Harry agreed not to use their HRH titles publicly or commercially. So why is it showing up on a gift basket conveniently photographed and circulated by the press with jam and sauce in the shot? This article just said that that jar of jam was homemade, so Meghan made it. That's a commercial reason for sending it out. Please let me know if you agree with that. And then beyond that, this basket has now been photographed and circulated by the press. Isn't that a commercial venture? So there's two things going on here. Meghan is violating her agreement because, in my opinion, she is using that HRH title for commercial gain. And at the same time, she's trying to maintain soft power while pretending to reject it. You don't say, buy from me because I'm royal. You say, oh, I'm just sending jam to my billionaire bestie with a regal signature and a branded photo opportunity. What Meghan is doing here is image stacking, placing her title next to her product to generate prestige by proximity. So what is image stacking? It's a psychological branding tactic where someone places two or more unrelated identities or symbols next to each other so that one enhances or legitimizes the other by association. It's not about saying, I'm royal, so buy my jam. It's about subtly placing royalty next to jam so your brain is the one that fills in the rest. You're not told it's luxurious, but you're shown HRH on a card. You're not told it's elite, but you see it sent to a billionaire. That's image stacking, letting visual cues do the work of the persuasion. And in this example with Meghan, the first symbol that we're seeing is HRH, which tells us about status, monarchy, Aristocracy. The second symbol is the homemade jam. It's domestic, it's warm, it's authentic. And the message it creates is this is not just jam, this is royal essence in a jar. She's saying you're not just buying preserves or jam or spread or whatever she's calling it today, you're buying legacy. Okay, let's go to the second thing I wanted to point out here. And I think this is the most ridiculous one. Megan says, I feel like we haven't talked about our blood type, but yours is probably an A positive like mine because I was like, even my blood is overachieving. I can't even with this woman. I can't even. Why would this even be brought up in a casual conversation? Your blood type. I mean, we know why. This was rehearsed and this was something Megan wanted us to see. And it's a complete contradiction to what she says later, and we'll get into that. So to me, she said the quiet part out loud. The first thing here is that this isn't just a quirky comment. She is strategically flattering her guests. She suggests that the interviewer shares her blood type, and she's subtly calling her an overachiever too. It's a bonding tactic. It's like saying, you're like me, and we're both exceptional. Strategic flattery isn't about sincere compliments. It's about using praise as a tool to gain favor, to align yourself with someone perceived as powerful, to blur boundaries, and to elevate your own status. See what I did there? By association. And it's often paired with mirroring, false intimacy, or subtle hierarchy games. How is Megan using it in that quote? Your blood type is probably A positive like mine. She's not joking. She's doing three things. She's bonding. She's creating this illusion of shared identity. You and I are both high achievers, even biologically. She's elevating. She's aligning the interviewer with her superior trait. You probably have my elite blood type, and its positioning is making herself the reference point for excellence. So essentially, when you're in this type of situation, you think they're praising you, but they're just positioning themselves as the mirror that you want to stand next to. So let's get into a couple of examples that maybe you have experienced this in your own life. You could get a compliment such as, you're just like me. I can tell you don't take BS from anyone. This sentence is used to fast track closeness and plant a shared identity. Another example, this is flattery that has hierarchy built in. It's when someone could say, you remind me of when I was just getting started. So much potential. This statement praises you while at the same time it reinforces their higher status. Another example, you're so respected in this space. I only connect with people who are really going somewhere. This is not a compliment. They're aligning with your clout to boost their image. And finally, it could be a statement such as, you're such an empath. That's probably why we get along. I'm the same way. This is mirroring. And it's done to gain trust, but they're actually baiting you into emotional closeness. So that's the first subtle message of Megan making this statement. And then let's talk to the glaring thing that she's saying. She's basically saying that she's genetically superior. This is narcissistic humor 101. You take something arbitrary, such as your blood type, and you turn it into a personal superiority flex. It sounds self deprecating, but underneath it's classic self mythologizing. It's as if her DNA is quietly whispering, I was born to be better. Self mythologizing is when, and it's really hard to say that word, is when someone turns their life, personality, or past into a carefully curated legend. They often exaggerate traits, hardships, or destiny to make themselves appear that they're uniquely gifted, spiritually chosen, they were destined for greatness, they're misunderstood by the masses, and ultimately they are just built differently. It's a form of emotional branding where their identity becomes a story, and that story is monetized, weaponized, and can be used to gain influence. Narcissists use self mythologizing to justify their superiority. I've always been different, they could say. They could use it to excuse bad behavior. This is just how visionaries operate. They demand special treatment. People like me don't play by the rules. And they rewrite the past into a flattering narrative. I overcame everything alone. And don't these statements all sound like something Megan has said? I can think of examples for each one of these specific instances that Megan has made these types of statements. So, what is she doing here? She is not joking. She's implying that excellence isn't something she worked for, it's something she is, down to her DNA. She's not sharing a fact, she's building a myth. She's saying, I was born exceptional, and everything I do, from jam to branding to breathing, reflects that. I want to give you a couple of statements that are self mythologizing that maybe you've heard before. The first is, I've always been the black sheep. This is often used to position someone as special, the misunderstood genius of the family. Another example, I've been manifesting this since I was 5. This is taking normal success and is being reframed as destiny and not work. A third example, even as a kid, I couldn't tolerate mediocrity. This exaggerates the person's standards to imply they were born with elite values. Next example, people have always been intimidated by me. That's why I've had haters. This recasts criticism as proof of greatness. And finally, I don't do average, I never have. This is a line you'll often hear from narcissists trying to reframe entitlement as excellence. But does she really believe this myth? And do other narcissists, when they come up with these myths, do they really believe it? The short answer is yes and no. A narcissist often needs to believe the myth, but deep down, they don't trust it. On the surface, they believe it completely. To the outside world and to themselves, they think they are exceptional, they're misunderstood geniuses, they are uniquely persecuted or envied, and they are chosen, rare, or too real for this earth. This belief fuels their confidence, entitlement, and defensiveness. It also justifies their actions. It's them basically saying, of course, I broke the rule. I'm not like other people. But underneath, there's a fragile self that knows it's a performance. Narcissists often construct the myth to protect a core of shame or emptiness that they can't tolerate. They react violently to criticism. They can't handle being ignored. They need constant validation to maintain the illusion. Their myth is a mask, but they wear it so tightly and for so long that it feels like skin. They don't believe it because it's true. They believe it because the alternative, not being special, is unbearable. I'm curious to know what you all think about this. Let me know your thoughts on Megan's statement and if you've ever had any experiences with this type of self mythology. Okay, let's go to the third thing I want to talk about. In the second paragraph, Megan is talking about a conversation she had with Oprah and what Oprah had said to her. It says, the Duchess recalled, she was the one that said, there are tons of things you can put your name on, but for you and how you like to show up for people, once you figure out how to encapsulate your essence, then you'll know. Then Megan says, it was so clear. The essence of who you are was about feeling seen, knowing that you're enough, knowing that you're beautiful, despite what anybody would say, and putting that essence in a product that could be shared with millions of people. This quote sounds soulful and empowering. It's like a spiritual breakthrough wrapped in self-worth. But when you look at the context, Oprah's advice, the brand launch, the monogram jam, what we're really seeing isn't essence, it's identity marketing. And here's the psychology behind it. There's a concept called image fusion. That's when someone's identity becomes inseparable from their public image. They don't just manage how they're seen, they start living inside the version they've curated. The brand isn't a reflection of the self, it replaces the self. So, to say it in another way, image fusion is when someone's sense of self is entirely defined by how they want to be perceived. The mask becomes the face, the myth becomes the identity. This is especially common in narcissistic branding. Everything becomes a symbol. The jam isn't just jam, it's a metaphor. The title isn't just nostalgic, it's strategic. The story isn't for healing, it's for positioning. So when Megan talks about capturing her essence and then sells that essence in a jar next to a printed HRH title, we're not witnessing vulnerability. We're watching a persona being monetized. She's not sharing who she is. She's performing who she wants to be seen as. You're not just buying jam, you're buying trauma recovery in a jar with a crown stamp and a prestige narrative to match. If you've ever felt like your role in someone's life was to maintain their image, you've experienced image fusion. When your identity is treated like a threat, or your humanity is edited out because it doesn't match someone's vibe, that's not love, that's control by curation. So, let me give you a couple examples of how you may have experienced image fusion. The first example is a narcissistic parent. They say, "Don't embarrass me in public, you represent this family." You weren't a kid exploring your identity. You were a reputation manager for a parent who saw you as a reflection of their success. Your achievements weren't about you, they were about them. Your style, your friends, your emotions all had to align with the version of the family image they wanted to project. The second example is an image focused partner. They could say something like, "We're not that kind of couple, don't post that." Your relationship became a performance. You weren't allowed to be fully yourself. You had to look like a couple goals post. Your emotions, messiness, or needs didn't fit their carefully styled version of the relationship, so they edited you out or shut you down. You weren't a partner. You were a prop in someone else's highlight reel. The third example is in a workplace. We're a family here. Just keep smiling. It looks better. Your company sells vulnerability in its branding, but punishes real emotion. You're expected to appear happy, driven, and on brand at all times, even when you're struggling. Your identity is molded to fit their mission. That's corporate image fusion. And finally, the influencer friend. Let me tag you, just don't say anything off script. You're friends with someone who curates every moment. They edit you in ways that make them look better. You're not seen as a person, you're seen as aesthetic support. If your mood, appearance, or comments don't match the brand, you're filtered out. All right, let's finish up this video by talking about the last section in this article I wanted to highlight. And it's Megan quoted as saying, "At the beginning, I just liked making jam," she said. "All I liked to do was just make jam and preserves." And it went from, "Okay, I'm going to share this jam with lots of friends and family," to, "People really like it and it brings me joy, so I can share it more broadly." And then she says, "But even then, I was in so much fear of failure or opinion that I wasn't thinking big enough at first." To me, this is fascinating. We're told that she started small, that she was just a woman making jam, scared to dream too big. But not long after, she's referencing Oprah, she's sending branded baskets to billionaires, and she's signing the letters that accompany them with HRH. That's not fear, that's strategy. This is what false humility looks like. It's a story crafted to sound humble, vulnerable, and relatable, while the actions tell a completely different story. And here's where it ties back to the self mythologizing. She's not just sharing a business origin story, she's building a personal legend. She's saying, "I was so scared to think big, but my essence was too powerful to be ignored." It's the classic hero arc, underestimated, afraid, but quietly brilliant. And now, rising like jam scented royalty from the ashes of her own self doubt. So you're making jam in fear, but also monogramming HRH cards for billionaires. Got it. This isn't a woman afraid to fail. This is a woman carefully framing herself as both the underdog and the icon. So you guys can all see here, all of this is image fusion. Megan isn't separating the product from the persona, she's merging the two. And what we're really seeing is a performance. It's not just jam, it's identity packaging. It's not just a monogram, it's soft power signaling. It's not just a blood type, it's narcissistic self mythologizing. So I'm curious to know, what do you think? Is this growth or is this just another layer of the Delulu cake? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you feel comfortable, let me know. Have you ever been treated like a prop in someone else's story where your existence had to match their image? If you feel comfortable sharing, please drop that in the comments. If this video was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you'll know every time I drop a new video. I have another video coming up soon that's going to delve more into this image fusion, and it's going to be fascinating. It'll probably be the video I drop after this one. Well, I want to thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.